Guys, what's up? Just a little quick note of housekeeping before we start this episode. This device, this lovely device that I record my podcast equipment on, I did not come fully prepared, and it did indeed die halfway through the episode. Thankfully, it did recover all the files. Everything was saved, thankfully. Something that I did have anxiety about the last half hour. Extreme anxiety about the last half of the episode. But, so if you notice an awkward pause in the episode, that's what that is. So, be aware of that, and here's the episode. Enjoy. Hey guys, I want to announce a super hot video drop from one of our show's regular guests, VIP by TOT with featuring artist Genie. And if you look closely, you might even catch a glimpse cameo from your local podcaster. So go show some love and support by giving the homie a follow and checking out this wild ride of a video in the link down below in the description. Guys, you know them. You love them. I do this at the beginning of every episode. If you don't know them by now, go fuck yourself. Stutterbox Productions, the backbone to many of the events that we have here in the Midwest. Are you trying to find your next spot? Because these guys, they can help. Hit up their Facebook page, hit up the CEO, and they can direct you any way they can. They have plenty of shows lined up. They have plenty of things going on. What are you waiting for? Head over to their Facebook page, like I said today, and they can fulfill any need that you need. Any need that you need. Jesus fucking Christ.
All right, guys, what's up? This is McAllister's podcast. I'm your host, always Cole McAllister. Joined today by a guest that I've wanted to have on for a very long time, and I'm very excited to finally have him here today. Miguel Tarango. I already fucked it up. Tarango. I'll use the shitty English version.
There you go.
How you doing today, man?
Like I've never heard that before.
Yeah, living in Iowa.
Yeah. Fine, doing well. Right now we're outside in the backyard, so.
Hell yeah. I was just telling you before, this is the first time we've done an outdoor setup in a while. You have a beautiful home. I appreciate you inviting me over and doing this, man. And this is probably one of the, if not the last good day of the month, you know.
Yeah, let's enjoy the sun while we can.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy we get in this November. Let me just ask you first, for those who don't know about you, what's your general background? What do you do? And get into it.
Well, Coleman and I know each other from Des Moines Area Community College. For those of you who don't know, the acronym being, or DMACC, as we call it in Iowa or Des Moines. We have a video production program, and that's how we met, right? I started a few years there teaching, and you were a good student, did a lot of work. So
You're best.
Good
right?
to have you. Yeah, of course. That's why we're here. You know? I expect great things, you know. Thousands of views, hits. But really, that's why I'm here, you know, is like a lot of people maybe moving in the last few years. The spouse and I took advantage of those lulls in I wouldn't say work, but we were working. But the fact that COVID had such an impact, you know, on everyone's life, so we had planned to move, or actually to take a sabbatical. It was already in our life plan to take a little trip somewhere. The spouse had already planned with her job. We're going to leave the country, in fact, because the pandemic hit and borders started closing up. Really, we had to pivot. So we pivoted Midwest, and so the spouse took advantage. Like, what do you think about Iowa? And I was like, well, sure. I had a documentary project that I was editing, so I thought, well, I could do with some quiet time in the country.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we came out here, and we actually literally were in the middle of nowhere in State Center. So I know Iowans don't even know about State Center sometimes, but just like the name, that's where it is.
Exactly.
Bunch of cornfields, but you know, I enjoyed it. It was fine. We took a lot of walks in the country. I would run around in cornfields, and I'd call my buddies, show them video, and we were gonna be like, check this out, it's great. You know, at the time it was still for us a temporary move. All my friends, we were at the time in California, but friends out there were like, "You're not coming back." I'm like, "No, I am." And they were right.
Yeah.
So, and really, that's why we're here, because of that. And the wife and I both found jobs, and we're like, well, let's take advantage. And again, another pivot yet again, because the plan was to head back to California after the 6 months to a year of sabbatical time, and didn't work out, or that didn't happen. So we stayed, and luckily we had sold our house already. We had most of our stuff in storage.
Good.
We brought half of it, which was in a rental home, but it made it easy. And we were lucky with this property that we're in now. We knew we had to find a place quickly, so within a few months we found the place, put an offer, and got it. And we're like, well, I mean, this checks off most of the things that we want. It was definitely more on the expensive end, where we were like trying, like, that's our high end. We thought, well, this could be a forever home. Let's go for it. We talked about it, and we said, let's just put an offer that makes us feel good. And it hit, and we're like, both of us were sort of like, well, we didn't expect that, but okay. And both of us are, after a few months of being completely overwhelmed by the size of the property and where we are, and just Iowa in general. But, people are nice, and the job's been great. I get to meet people like you. And
hell yeah.
It's been, it's been enjoyable. I mean, it's, my job is, showing or talking about movies all day, how to make video, edit, how to do all that, how to, shoot, and then being experimental too. That's kind of the fun part for me. And, because of this line of work, I get to learn about this stuff too, and that's the job, learn the new thing. And this semester the big thing has been DaVinci Resolve, which I'm sure we'll get into. But that's kind of how I got here, is really the spouse, because she was from here, and I just had interest in movies since I was a kid. The first movie I saw was Star Wars. Literally awesome. Was Star Wars.
That's awesome.
I saw it in '78 though, in Chihuahua. So I saw already the re-release. So I never saw the original unfiltered version. By the time Lucas went back and added subtitles for international releases, he'd already dinked with it.
Damn,
I believe he added The New Hope Episode 4 on the re-release.
Oh,
so that was a year after. The first one did not have that. It was just Star Wars, Time of Civil War, that thing. And I think on the second, or the international releases, were the first time he actually went in. So he's been messing with these for a long time.
Damn,
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that, I guess, how do you look at it when directors kind of like take their pieces and spend all this time kind of remastering it, redoing it, whatever, versus kind of doing new projects, doing new things? I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
I think a lot of it can be steeped in our discussions that we have even in class. A lot of these decisions, unfortunately, are based on finance.
Sure.
And it's from 1987, Spaceballs. It's the joke. The search for more money.
Yeah.
And for Lucas, it's his whole MO with his franchise was toys. And that's where he made his billions, really, and a brilliant marketing scheme. So it was very successful at what it set out to do, as we talk, So they're almost foolish not to do what they do. And for him, it's also a way to, as we look at copyright laws and how the rights to a certain property or a franchise, the way that those laws are written, when you produce work in that universe, depending on your contract, you sort of it starts that clock over for your ownership, which is sort of if you follow the whole saga with Sony and the X-Men and all that.
Sure.
That's why with Spider-Man, they owned it, which is why they kept making the movies the way they did. Whether they were good or not, again, it's another issue. But
sure.
They made the movies. They made enough of a profit, and they knew they had something. Even if Fantastic Four were terrible movies, all of them, right? They still kept making them. They made money.
Yeah.
Now they're in a position where, Marvel wants to bring everything together, so they're like, it's sort of like holding on to a certain, .com website name because
exactly.
it's, I know that, the best podcast.com, whatever, someone's going to, I'm waiting for Joe Rogan to buy that from me or something, and they know that's $5 million instantly. So, Sony has made a good money just on making crap movies. And we find that a lot of like what Hollywood's doing, it's scrupulously based on finance.
Yeah.
Why they canceled Batgirl, that kind of thing. It's they decided that not releasing it, taking it as a loss, as a business decision to get a tax refund was better than actually releasing it. And people were saying this movie's not terrible, but for them it made more money financially. So unfortunately, a lot of it is driven by finance, and that's where you feel a little, disappointed.
Sure.
And the results sometimes speak for themselves, or they're not very good. The Apocalypse Now one is interesting, because there was so much footage. But as we saw, I think we saw the documentaries in class, and we even see Coppola admitting certain scenes. I was never happy. We put a lot of time into it, but it just didn't work. Like the whole French plantation scene, I think, is the famous one, and he talks about like it just never quite hit the way he wanted to. Cut it out. And then we see Redo in early 2000, and it's back in. So
who knows?
And then John Milius, so his writer on the project, kind of let the cat out of the bag. That was a cash grab. And he like literally said, "Yeah, I think we released it for money, honestly." And then Coppola went back yet again and did the final cut. So he even recut Apocalypse Now 3 times or whatnot. So he's another little tinkerer. I think one of the only ones that really were satisfying would be Blade Runner. That's one of the few that okay, actually this one did work.
Yeah. It was a better movie when it like that final cut was a better movie.
Yeah, the final cut. Yeah, they went back and fixed things digitally in really interesting ways that were not meant to call attention to themselves, which was great. If anything, it blended it better into the film and integrated into the universe and world, where the Star Wars movies were, they're so, when you had a movie that focused more on practical effects and models, to add the visual effects, the CGI just looked wrong in a movie from the 70s. It just,
Exactly. And that's one of the things that people kind of bash CGI, and they'll say like, I'm personally not a fan of the Marvel and DC movies. I think they really overdo it. But like, you look at someone like David Fincher, right, who just uses kind of just a little bit and just kind of gives it that effect. Like, I do think there's value in that. And one of the things that kind of going back to this, like that I learned to appreciate taking your class is like the money aspect to film, because like even if a film isn't necessarily the greatest of all time or whatever, like I think if you can turn a profit, like that means something, right? Like strictly from a business perspective, like you create a product and it did better exponentially, and that's an achievement in itself, I feel like. So I feel like a lot of people before understanding film and getting into film, they kind of have that prudish like, oh well, this didn't have blah 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 blah, but when you figure out how like what we did in class, how I directed projects and did that whole thing, you realize like, oh, there are so many different pieces in this. Like, it's amazing that they even made anything at all, you know?
Yeah, truly. Yeah, it's so hard, so much that we do in our industry, I tell you guys, that first couple weeks, this is the hardest thing you'll ever do. Especially because we really do incorporate all the arts. We are all the arts together, from painting to music.
I agree. People have called me a prude for this, but I always have considered film the superior art medium, because yes, you're right. It really does bring in every single aspect of any kind of artistic venture that, although, by itself on face value can still be good. It can just be so much better. Has the it's kind of interesting. It has the potential to be better. Also has the potential to be 10 times worse. Yeah. It's wild. How do you let me ask you this? Kind of going back to moving to Iowa and stuff. Sure. How do you I'm sure there are parts of California that you miss, but I guess just compare and contrast. Iowa, it's no Hollywood by any means, but I do think that things are picking up and growing here very slowly. I don't know. I guess what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think my perspective would be unique in that, I've traveled a little bit,
Sure.
I was born in the country, I was born in Mexico, and I spent my first few years there. My first language was Spanish, and learned English in a Head Start program in Texas. Grew up in Texas, even lived a few years in Michigan as a kid, and
Nice.
that would have been through, You know, again, everything is Star Wars through Return of the Jedi. And then moved back to Texas and kind of spent the formative years through high school there. And then Colorado. You know, so really having this conversation about other places, the place that I miss the most is probably still Colorado. You know, I spent about 11 years or so in Denver. And yeah, great city. And when I first went, you know, my thoughts there were I never really heard anyone say anything bad about Denver. It's like, yeah, it's all right. Everyone kind of had a, you know, good feeling or good, experience or, you know, when they went to visit, they always had a good time. And people always seem to say positive things about it. So for me, moving out here, seeing the neighborhoods, meeting the people, it reminded me a little bit more of Colorado.
Nice.
You know, these neighborhoods here remind me of some of my favorite neighborhoods out in the city. Those of you who know Denver, you know, Baker neighborhood, out in, I spent a lot of time in Cheeseman Park and City Park area, which is by Colfax Street and Josephine and University, which is the fun parts. I mean, that's a lot of music. I mean, it's by Colfax Ave, which is the longest commercial street in the United States, but lots of fun bars, lots of great restaurants, and like 4 live music venues that are, you know, anything from Wu-Tang, Battles to the National, the Pixies. I mean,
that's awesome.
I even saw Rufus Wainwright, you know, the troubadour or a pianist, you know, he played a show at the Ogden Theater, you know. So I mean, it was a fantastic experience there. You just walk down the street and whatever's playing, you just walk into, you know, and that's the part, that's what I really missed. And Denver still is my favorite city in terms of the places I've lived.
Sure.
Because you could just walk, you know, I mean, I lived a block and a half from the SIE Film Center, which is where they have the Denver Film Society and their film festival in the fall every year. And I spent a lot of time there and did some collaborations with them. That's also in Denver where I opened my first business. And met a lot of great people, you know, great art scene. Denver had one of the biggest art scenes that grew organically, you know, that had some support from the city. But, I mean, man, their first Friday on Santa Fe Street packed. I mean, 20, 30,000 people sometimes, you know. It was, and now I hear it's kind of nuts. And this was before legalization and all those things, before there was a huge rush of people there. I mean, this is all like 06, 07, 08, 09, way back when, you know, and that's kind of when I was there, you know. I moved in 2014.
Okay.
So I was, even when I was there, it was already like, this place is already feeling crowded. And we were in 2014, we were like, I think, oh man, we got to make a change somewhere. But
yeah, that is kind of the scary reality about, like, you know, as Des Moines grows, that also happens, right?
That's what's going to happen.
You saw it with Colorado. You see it with Texas, right? Like Austin and all that, you know? Like,
Austin's a great city.
Yeah.
Great city. I mean, the summers are terrible. That's kind of what kept me away from Central Texas and Austin specifically. It's just, it's miserable in August and September. I got cousins down there now, and it's like enjoying that heat, and they're like, no one goes out. It's pretty bad.
Everybody's house is a freezer.
Yeah. It's AC. It's basically that's the joke, right? You go from one AC to another, you know, and the way California is different from all that is, well, California is a world city. It's a world economy, you know, 5th, 6th largest economy in the world.
Sure.
All our produce really comes from California, you know, and what's great about it too is the multicultural aspect. You know, there's people there are, you know, it's a great mix of people, just all kinds, you know, and you see it in everybody, and those are the things that I do miss. Of course, L.A. First-rate art scene, Hollywood, and then all of the entertainment stuff. But the things that you don't know about or be like, you know, or lesser known. Big Bear with Lake Arrowhead, or down south in Temecula with Wine Country, you know, in Southern California, and then headed east towards Joshua Tree, you know, in Palm Springs. Those are our favorite things really to do, that were a little bit different. And like Palm Springs and that whole area, if you're into it, that was the birth of sort of that desert rock. So Caius and Queens of the Stone Age and the generator parties. So they would go out there and like find a dead part of the desert, bring out a gas generator and just kill, you know, rocks of metal. Just,
oh yeah.
And that's what it was. People out there partying, doing drugs, doing their thing, psychedelics. I mean, it truly was that. and it's still going. People are still doing weird stuff out there, and it's super cool, super fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you mentioned previously you owned a business. As someone, I have a podcast. I would, eventually, I consider, it's not necessarily the most profitable, but I do consider it a business.
It's entrepreneurial.
Yeah, exactly. What did that teach you about, both life and, the world around you, like owning a business and going through that whole process?
Oh, I like the way you phrase that. Nice. Because that is what you do. You kind of learn a lot about yourself, You learn that success has many faces, and failure has many faces too. But sometimes success is you're able to open your doors every day, And our business was a storefront in downtown Denver. If you go, I think you could still see our sign out there. Although our business did close last year. When I left in 2014, my partner and I, we had an amicable business divorce, but we had a good one.
Yeah.
And I basically sold her my half, and when I left to California, and she kept it running for another 4 or 5 years, and or I should say 7, and eventually sold it to another company, and now she's doing independent consultation. But we were right next to the Winku Brewery across from Union Station. So we were in a really great spot. And when we opened, it was 2009. The recession, the mortgage recession from California was running rampant at the time. And I knew some people questioned, you're opening a business now? It's like the worst time. It's like, man, I know, but I was quitting Apple. That was me. I was leaving Apple, and I gotta get out of here. And it's sort of like, well, I can't work in this place anymore. I had already started my process to leave, and and you think about it all the time, like, man, I'm leaving a big company and that was a full-time job, benefits, all that stuff, and you think, man, should I do this? But I don't know. You just have maybe how you feel sometimes in your podcast. You just you follow your gut. You just think like, I don't know. I think we should do this, and we did, and I did it for 5 years there.
Wow.
So and the things that you learn are just, trust your gut. You truly can do those things you want to do, but do them and then do them. It was great because it really forces you to put your money where your mouth is. Instead of talking about it, you have to do it. And in the process, that's where I got my first experiences heavily with running film festivals, with or sponsoring, doing workshops, and running panels, because we would do collaborations, not always with the main Denver Film Society, but in March, April, there were other festivals, one being the International Women's Festival, and we collaborated with them quite a bit. And we would do like a mobile film festival. So even back then, we were pushing using your phone to make content. And we would do workshops, because our business at the time, I didn't mention it, but it was called the Mac Spa. And it was a Apple or Mac-centric focused business where we would do both repairs on computers, specifically Macs, but we would also do home visits and business visits.
Nice.
So we were doing, the kind of thing that we noticed that people wanted at an Apple store or another type of store, like, oh, can you just come to my house and set up my network and my printer? And they, Apple didn't have a plan for that. The only other opportunity would be Best Buy with the Geek Squad.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
And they were... The interesting thing, Geek Squad, I don't know if it ever fully took off at the time. You would see it, but would people say, you got to do the Geek Squad?
Yeah, it was kind of just a thing.
It was a thing. No one really talked about it. So we're like, these guys it seems like they were missing a thing. But with us, we were also looking at it with eyes of we want to get paid what we're worth. If we're doing this service, we can attach a certain price tag to it. And so our catchphrase was elite service for you and your Mac. So with that word elite, we were already targeting an upper middle class clientele.
Exactly.
So we had in Denver, we had athletes that were our clients, professional athletes and stuff like that, politicians, lawyers, finance people. So we would go to nice houses all the time. Like, whoa, like mansions, and be like, wow, this is great. And there's a couple stories I have where, visiting houses where some people had gotten in trouble with the law.
Oh, no.
That's all I'll say. But and there were a few where I'm like, I feel really weird being here, so I'm sorry, but I got to fire you as a client because I cannot come back here. It happened a few times, but
Oh my God.
And of course we won't say beyond that, so no one will be able to figure out what it is. But, it was definitely a different game. But I mean, yeah, I'm sure as you've seen, when you do your own thing and you meet people with their own unique requests, you get in unique situations, and we used to support people from Colorado Springs all the way to Estes Park, which is
that's a range.
Out here would be like I would have a client in Iowa City from Des Moines.
Oh wow,
it'd be like that, like 2 hours away.
Yeah,
but also driving through the mountains. And Estes Park, for those of you who may know, it's The Shining. That's where the Stanley Hotel is.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
I do want to go visit that someday. That's one of my landmarks.
Yeah, we did a night there.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, how was it?
Yeah, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it was. I had already met my spouse, the wife, and we had planned. Let's go to Estes Park. Let's stay at the Stanley. I had a dog at the time, so we just had to make sure that we could, that they accommodated our animal. And in the main hotel they couldn't, but they said we have a side property where it's right here, right next door. You could go there and don't worry, there's activity there too. It's all over. Like, well, cool, whatever, It's kind of fun because they run The Shining on their closed circuit TV, the movie. So initially I was thinking like, maybe I can bring The Shining up on my phone or my pad and I'll show it. The wife hadn't seen it. So I was like, I want to scare her, it's all good. Yeah. Partners want to do, I was like, yeah, let's, and no, they're playing it. I'm like, even better. So we saw it. She did not sleep that night. And weird stuff happened. No, weird stuff happened. Like I took 2 cameras with me, and I had a camcorder, not unlike what you got over there, and and it was a Canon too, a Canon that was recording on little SD cards.
Oh, nice.
And I had a at the time that was popular, and it was in 2009, 2010. There was, video was still novel on phones. It wasn't really a thing that you could shoot on yet. But we had these cameras that were these inexpensive, like $100. You might have played with them as a kid. They were called flip cams.
Okay, yeah.
And I had a Kodak one, and the Kodak one wouldn't record on the camera. It actually recorded also to SD cards.
Okay.
So I took those 2 cameras and was recording stuff. Well, the Kodak camera, for some reason, the card was completely corrupt. I could never access it. It was the only time that ever happened too. I took that camera to China with me too.
Wow.
For a month. And it ran fine. I made a video, everything. I mean, no problems. I've never had any problems with that little camera, only that one time.
Wow. And
on the Canon, I was able to pull footage off of it, and then the card also got corrupt after that. So there was some weird stuff that happened with the cameras. But the other thing was they told us about some stuff that was happening in our room, and I was watching TV. It was about 1 a.m. We're in the room, and or actually no, I fell asleep. My wife wakes up and she's like, "Do you hear that?" And I was like, "It was about like the witching hour, 3/4 in there," and
oh my god,
on like above us in the seat, like, okay, there's a floor above us, and because we're like, okay, there's a floor above us, something's going on. Well, it's 4 a.m. Someone's messing around. Maybe, someone's probably doing a ghost hunt. I asked the guy the next morning at the front desk, he was like, yeah, what? I mean, he was like, the day before, he was like, hey, welcome. And it was the same guy, very accommodating. The second day, I don't know, someone hit his cat or something. I don't know. So when I asked him, what's going on? He's like, yeah. I was like, is there anyone above us? No. I was like, it's because, yeah, it's just an open area. It's like, oh, okay. Ghost tour or anything? Nope. Anybody above us? Nope.
God.
He goes, there's one person that was staying in the second floor, and they were in a corner because we were there like on a Wednesday or a Thursday. So they were staying in the corner room, which was supposed to be the haunted room. Mm-hmm. And they were there, and that was the only thing. He goes, that's the only people there. But they're over there. And if you could hear them, I would doubt it because, it's hotel that way.
Sure.
And he goes, yeah, we heard things. Yeah, okay. Literally, just looking at me. Yeah, and but you knew this. He goes, I told you. Yeah, we know it. This happens every day, dude. And he's like,
Wow.
He's like, yeah, like, whoa. And then and also in the 2 a.m, I didn't mention this, but as I was watching TV, I don't know if it was my head, a synapse, but the room flashed like a big bright light, like a lightning. There's a weird and like a ball above the TV. It was really weird. I took a picture to my wife where I'm pointing up. Like that was like one of the weird things that happened. Hearing the sounds, yeah, and just the dog slept. She wasn't bothered. She was a pug, so if you know pugs, they're kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Kind of little chickens here, but
they want food.
It was fun. Oh yeah, that's all they want. Dinosaurs. But it was a good time. But yeah, that was it. I mean, some little things here and there. Yeah, and they know it, and they'll tell you the stories. Like, here's what's going on in this room. Here's what's going on in this room. Here's what happens here. That place is like, yeah. There's a lot going on, so I would recommend it.
Hell yeah. I haven't been out to Colorado since like 2017, but that's definitely one of the places I want to go when I go back.
There's a few places out there.
Yeah,
there's a few places that have that. Like, and if you go back, go to the on Osage Street or the Osage stop on the light rail is the Buckhorn. The Buckhorn Exchange, I believe it's called. It's probably still the same name, but that's the oldest liquor license in Colorado, 1861, 2, 3, somewhere in there. And they still have a plaque that says that. It's severely haunted too.
Damn.
There's especially if you like gaming meat, that kind of thing. Elk sausage,
Ooh.
It's that kind of spot. They got all kinds of. That's what they're known for. All kinds of venison, elks, etc. And you go in there and it looks like it's antlers and things everywhere. You're like, whoa, it's like you're in a camping lodge.
Damn, that's wild.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your time at DMACC. One of the things I want to talk to you, because since I've completed your program, one of the things that I've noticed that has really ramped up and risen in the last couple months is AI. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts about both how that impacts the industry, me as a whole, and your job as a teacher? Is that something that you have considered, like, kind of integrating into your program at all, or?
Yeah, it's AI like anything else, just another tool.
Yeah.
Another something else that we should be at the very least aware of, and the sooner you get into the conversation, the sooner you can consider how it'll affect industry, what you're doing, all of those things, right? So we've actually put that question to our advisory board, this year. And our advisory board, we have from people from around all over Des Moines, which is great because it's mostly industry people. But I do have a few people from California also on there, and Texas. So again, outside perspective as well as inside, and just hearing what they have to say too in regards to AI. This year we also started a partnership with Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield,
Yes.
which we started that last year. I think we prototyped it. Were you in that?
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't do very much, but I did do one event for them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So actually, Sean Hicks, who runs that program, is one of the people who's like, maybe you should think about AI. I was like, yeah. And he and I had a big meeting, and we had a good conversation about it. And he's also on our board. So when we had our advisory board meeting with the other members, we brought it up. Like, what are your thoughts? What do they think? And I think the consensus was, like anything else, it's a tool that, as if you embrace it, good things can come out of this. Because right now, people are just sort of doing the jokes, the meme stuff. It's also interesting because the place where we are now, our zeitgeist, if you will, it's so silly. Kind of where we are, it's everything's a joke, everything's like, how can I meme this? How can I create a viral moment that, it's almost like we're looking for the hashtagable moment. It's like, but that would have been 10 years ago. Now we're like looking for the hashtag of the hashtag of the hashtag, the reference to the hashtag to the meme, that's where, it's like, it's kind of nuts. It's Star Wars as a property, and we started talking about it, but when people started to expand that universe out, they realized like, wow, there's really not much story here. Which is why when you look at Star Trek, they're like, well, Star Trek actually has more of a story, has more to go, because it's a much richer world and universe. It literally is a galaxy. While Star Wars is just kind of a small story about some people that ended, and now they're just trying to reheat. It's like reheating Campbell's soup instead of reheating your turkey dinner from Thanksgiving, you know? And so Star Wars is a Campbell's soup, for those who don't know, right? And Star Trek would be more the turkey. I mean, I'm not one or the other. Sure. But like when you're a kid, you like Star Wars, and when you get older, you realize, yeah, actually, I'm a Trekker, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, from the get-go, I mean, Star Trek is all about, this is the fleet, and this is our world of exploration. So, I mean, from that alone, I mean, if you think about it as like a TV series, I mean, there's an episode here, there, etc. But Star Wars, I mean, yeah, it's that structure, and like anything beyond that, you're going to have to make it up. You're going to have to, like, at some point, it's going to deviate from the original thing,
Yeah, and so, because it's like, the reason why I brought that up, because we're sort of in this memification culture of like looking at memes. I mean, we're kind of stretching thin now. Those non-existing plot points. I mean, the Emoji Movie came and went already. That already happened. That it's like we forget. Like, oh yeah, that was like 3-4 years ago. That was already a thing that nobody saw. We already forgot. I mean, the Five Nights at Freddy movie is a hit. Like, what?
That's wild.
And you try to watch it, and you're like, this is awful. The kids love it,
Yeah.
And the kids, not only do they love it, they defend it. Like, well, you just don't know. You don't know. And I'm like, I don't want to know. And because if anyone's played the game, you realize this is a dark story. And it's some parts of it are kind of interesting. Like, I played the first one, and but they after that, it's sort of the same thing, just repackaged, over and over and over again. So AI at its core is about prediction. And it's about predicting responses, and about predicting sort of your emotional response too, And so that's why when you type into ChatGPT and all those things, like, here's what we're trying to, I want a scenario, 2 characters sitting outside on a platform having a podcast. Then it writes the whole story for you, right? Yeah. So what we're doing, or what we did this semester in Production 3, is to get ready for some of the projects we did. Since we were sort of, we had like 2 weeks where we had some time, like, let's do a project, let's do something, let's do some shooting. We did that too in our class. So what we did instead is we went to AI. Let's have AI write us a script. We got the green screen. We can make it happen because we have a green screen, right? So let's use the tool. And the script that it wrote had 2 characters were in the middle of one character in dialogue with the other character. Immediately says dies or had died, and it's revealed in the conversation. They're both talking like, oh, how are you? I'm fine. Like, I'm having trouble at my job. Oh, okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't go to my job today. How come? Oh, because I was driving in my car and I had an accident. Oh, are you okay? Yeah, but unfortunately, I didn't make it.
Oh my God.
And as we know, that's what AI does. It creates this like, oh, so suddenly I got to move from having a standard 2-shot dialogue scene with over-the-shoulder dialogue shots to, oh wait, now maybe this is a Ouija board conversation. I don't know what's going on, So we had to play with it, and we brought in some actors too and had fun with it. I mean, right now, it's still kind of a novelty, I think, in terms of looking at it that way. Mm-hmm. And the consensus for the board too. I mean, here's like, shoot. I mean, talk about keeping your audience and giving you the answer 10 minutes later, right?
Very good, man.
The consensus really is, if you're a one-person show that does everything, and maybe you've seen this, it's going to help you optimize certain things and automate certain aspects of like images or video or audio, sweetening, normalization, those kinds of things. AI does have its places in those, to help us. And we are using those tools already. That's what they do. I mean, that's what those filters are really for. That's what they're aspects of it. Siri and the Alexa, all those are, versions of prediction and predictability, which are versions of AI. And then we've been using them for years, we just haven't outright said that's what they are, because when you do that, people You know,
Yeah, they freak
Skynet's
out.
coming. The Matrix is coming. Skynet's coming. I mean, the sky is falling. Whatever you want to say. You know, the Martians are invading.
Yeah, I mean, people forget, like, you know, Premiere Pro, that's, you know, the caption generator. I mean, that's AI. You know, like, and then at one point it's this, so then people are gonna freak out. Because I'm curious about what your opinion on this is, because I'm in the same camp as you. Like, you know, people might call me naive, but I really do think it's a tool, and I think that it can actually help a lot of people. But, you know, there is a whole camp of people. You know, we had the writer's strike. We have a lot of people who are very upset about AI. I guess, what's your response to when people kind of look at this and they're like, oh my God, this is going to take away jobs. This is going to devalue things. Like, I don't know. What's your response to that?
Yeah. So that it is. I'm glad that of course we support that strike because they are looking for proper compensation for work by people that are not on the poster. Basically, that's what it is. And above the line talent versus below the line talent. Most of us are really below the line talent.
Yeah.
In the regard that we do all the work to make them look good. That's really what we do.
True.
So it's great that I think it was a good move to do now, early in that regard. Nip it in the bud, or let's start this conversation before it really gets out of hand. It becomes a runaway train where, well, we've already written contracts a certain way. Because again, it comes back to finance. Are people getting compensated for work or likeness, which is sort of what we started talking about earlier? It comes back to that likeness, and do I have rights to myself? If you take my picture, do I have a right to tell you, well, I don't like how you're using my picture, but you're like, well, I took it, so I own the picture. And so that's where the conversation can go. I mean, it's the same argument we've had from painting too. If a painter does your portrait, who owns it? Who owns that image? And you're like, well, but if we remember in video and film and what we do, this is where I come back to this. I remind myself, we're never creating reality. This is never reality. The moment you hit record and the first frame that's being recorded, the first audio that's being recorded, the moment that's happened, reality is irrevocably changed. It's changed. I mean, and that comes from sociology and anthropology. Recording something means that it's already artificial. So we are there, we can manipulate it.
Yes.
And then it comes back to the compensation. Who's going to get compensated for, like said podcast, something like that. It's like, Coleman, I demand that McAllister hour or whatever gives me 10% of all net proceeds. Some people,
no.
Yeah, exactly. And some people will say, then I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's where where I always bring the conversation back to that, to AI, because you still need a human there to guide that thing for that initial idea, because AI is not coming up with any ideas at the moment.
Yeah.
Again, it's a tool to facilitate. It's still what it is. It's not creating anything original necessarily. You have to give it prompts.
I agree. I talked about this on podcast a few episodes ago. I compare it to a video game almost. Mm-hmm. Like there is an artistic aspect to the video game, obviously, but when you're playing the video game, you didn't create the thing. Like all you're doing is prompting it and interacting with the world, and that seems similar to what AI is.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So, and one other thing that I'm really I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. I'm waiting for like the legal precedents, because I'm sure you've seen, there are all these trends where like there's a rumor of a sequel, and then 10 jackasses type it into their AI and they make a poster and everybody thinks it's real. I'm really wondering like at what point these, whoever is going to come in and be like, hey, this is my property, like how they're going to define that. It's really interesting.
Well, if you think about 10 years ago, remember digital, who was it? Digital Tupac, digital Michael Jackson, the holograms?
Oh, yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
So it's already happened. So if you think about likeness, and we forget so quickly.
Yeah.
Remember that, it already happened, and people were already like, yeah, but that was, I guess it's okay. I guess, did Michael Jackson's family sign off on that? Did Tupac's family sign off on that? And you're like, probably not. Because it happened at what, the Super Bowl or Coachella? Everything was
something
Coachella.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coachella. That sounds right.
It's like, yeah, that was a ton of money. Of course they're going to pull off some jackassery like that, and they did,
exactly.
and at the same time, when you do that, if we look at it as an artist, we would want to do that. Just, is this going to work? Are people going to react to it? If you look at it as a business or a finance person, you're like, well, I'm doing this because people are going to pay to go see that.
Yeah.
And we're more interested in like, how are people going to respond to it? So it's almost like two different ways to consider or look at it. Like, are we looking at it for like, wow, can we really do some interesting work and manipulate things and still have those great experiences like we would on a human-led production? While again, finance people, did I do it? That's weird.
No, you're good. You're good.
And while finance people will look at it more like, ooh, dollar signs. I can put Michael Jackson in anything now. I can put Tupac. I mean, those are the rumors, right? Tupac's living somewhere in Aruba or something, right? And there's a lot of money left on the table, to like what just happened a few weeks ago. The biggest band in the world released the last single, Then and Now, right? The Beatles.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they used AI again. So there you go. To clean up vocals, and it was a sketch of a song that John Lennon had recorded. And I believe it was already after the breakup. I want to say, because I think Yoko had the masters, and she approached Paul and got Ringo involved, and there's a whole song now. Yeah, wow. Then and Now. That's brand new single. They put it on vinyl. They're calling it the last single. So well, there it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll go listen to that now.
It's, it's a song. I heard it. I don't remember it, but it's like, even Yellow Submarine, Ringo's is better. but it's, that's kind of, in the end, that's what it's kind of coming back to. Again, that's why they had the strike, because people knew this is coming to come down to money that we don't have. And, we're tired of making $40,000 and living in LA, and that's basically starvation wages, out there. And, so when you have the kind of the, as we saw, when they strike, it brings everything to a grinding halt, Like, I wanted to see Dune 2 already, but no, now it's pushed back to March, or whatever it is. And that's how powerful or how much of an influence people can have, And if we look at this as a broader analogy, I mean, this could be like a, if people paid attention and looked at really what was happening, who was doing what. And I mean, these are all the people that write the stories that you never heard of and will never hear from again, because people don't care.
Yeah.
They only want, the $10-20 million star.
Exactly.
So that, and if we look at that analogy, it just shows how much power the people really do have, and everywhere, whether they're farm workers, whether they're, working class, whatever they do, carpenters, garbage men, how much trouble would we be in if garbage men decided to, strike?
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yeah.
You want to get someone's attention, like, I'm not going to pick it up.
Yeah.
Just pile up.
Yeah.
Crap everywhere. People are like, ugh,
Yeah.
I mean, and we see that. I mean, those are the parts for me of like Dark Knight Rises. People make fun of those movies and all that, but you see that even in those movies, they have garbage piled up everywhere and stuff, and it's like, yeah, gross, disgusting, but those aren't the things that people talk about in those movies. They just Heath Ledger Joker was awesome and he wasn't in it, so I hate it. And it's like, yeah, but what about all the societal stuff?
Yeah,
about
exactly.
the people revolting against the upper class. I mean, that's the more interesting part of the story. And
yeah, I agree.
If you argue about those, the Dark Knight trilogy with Nolan, that's actually the most interesting story of the three of them. Is sort of the revolt of people towards the upper class and trying to even it out. What is the League of Shadows really doing? And if you break down that story, but that's not how people frame the argument. They just say, Bane sucked, Joker's cool. That's what it came down to,
Yeah, there always seems to be a mass populace that you're arguing against, right? I don't know.
But I mean, you're arguing against people who, filet mignon or Big Mac. What are they gonna have?
Exactly.
Filet what? Give me that biggie. Give me two of those. I drive by Marshalltown all the time because my sister-in-law lives out there, and that McDonald's line is always there's two of them, and they're packed out at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, most popular restaurant in Marshalltown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's what people want. You know, it's if you saw the movie Seven, you know,
Yes.
Morgan Freeman, his Somerset, there's a moment in that where he talks to Brad Pitt's character at a bar. He goes, "Yeah, I get it. Apathy is the answer. It's easier to lose yourself to the McDonald's and the ease of life and the drink and all that than to give a shit, to care, and because that hurts. And I think it hurts when you care, and you go through. It's painful, and I have a daughter now too, and I've always thought I've empathetic, and I was a person who I try to follow the lessons of Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, and
Hell yeah.
try to do that. Do the right thing sometimes mean ambiguously gray. It's not always black and white, but you always just try to do the right thing for the right person at the right time, and it's painful a lot of time. And it's when you give a shit, it hurts and it's hard, and sometimes that means I don't get to live in California anymore. Now I live in Iowa and I work in Ankeny, but I feel like I'm doing a better thing here than I was out there. So
Yeah, awesome.
You kind of, it kind of forms the basis of life. And when you start thinking about your life trajectory, I think in that regard, it's sort of, things start to fade away in terms of like the things that you, when you were younger, you wanted or you gravitated towards, so that when you get older, it's like what we study in psychology. You're looking at those moments in your life when you can contribute back to society and then help the next generations. You don't have to have a kid, but now that I do have a kid, now I got skin in the game. So I got to make sure that she's okay.
Yeah.
That the next future
yeah.
is okay. And what does that mean? It means, taking care of people like the students, the next generation, you guys. I need you guys to have your head on.
All right. Sorry. So I guess let me just ask one of the last questions. Iowa's industry, we talked about, various whatever, like your experience moving, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but like, I guess what's in your mind, like what's your, like if Iowa collectively, what's our path forward to like creating something, it's some kind of industry semblant, that resembles, what we think of when we think of media and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good question. Man, that one's loaded.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Cause that one's like, do we replicate the coasts?
Yeah.
Or not. And, I think what we could do is, and we should, we never should. You never should do that. The beauty of Iowa, and it is a beautiful state. It is picturesque. It's, I really enjoy it. Like when I moved here, again, since I had really no connection to this place, other than that, I drove through it a few times when I was younger. And when I did, I hated it. I was like, I hate Iowa. Just go away. And what I realized, it was actually Nebraska, because that stretch of 80. Yeah. Oh my God!
It all blends together. Yeah,
it's so straight and like nothing. It was actually Nebraska that pissed me off for Iowa. So I can see why you guys don't like Nebraska very much. No? Gives Iowa a bad rep. No? But all these places they're all similar. They're kind of like the Midwest, right? It's one big thing.
Sure.
With fun regional rivalries is how I like to think of it, because hell, I'd love to be in Minneapolis. If it's good enough for Prince, it's good enough for me. But what we're finding is, like Prince made it happen in Minneapolis. Never left. I mean, yeah, he traveled, but headquarters, Paisley Park, recording, he was there. First Avenue, he was playing there all the time, downtown. You make it happen, and when you see those moments, like we had Lizzo too, right? Lizzo's part of that Minneapolis sound. Yeah. But Wu-Tang, East Coast, Snoop Dogg, West Coast, right? There's very specific regional sounds. I think Pitbull, Florida, and all those guys are from Florida and whatnot. So it's a unique sound. Austin has its own, like, kind of bluesy rock sound, like Gary Clark Jr., that kind of stuff. It's fantastic music, and good mixing of genres, right? But I think with Iowa, we have that opportunity now to produce our own kind of thing. It seems like people out here are into rock. I mean, we have our band, that one band.
Oh, Slipknot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know which one. Yeah. Sorry guys, I forget the name once in a while, but I mean, I like metal, but I'm not really a new metal guy. Sabbath. I'm an old guy.
Yeah.
and that stuff. Sleep, Om. I'm into that slower kind of, psychedelic, a little bit psychedelic,
Sure.
but stoner metal is what they call
Sure,
it. I
sure.
think black metal, Norwegian stuff.
Hell yeah.
But Slipknot, they're fun. We have opportunities in Iowa that you necessarily wouldn't have, like in California, New York, because that narrative has been written so many times. When I was in California, one thing I noticed was a lot of movies, like Karate Kid, I was watching it with fresh California eyes. I'm like, whoa, I recognize neighborhoods. A lot of these movies are actually about California. And then you start playing the game of like, no, bullshit, they couldn't drive from that high school to that park because that's like 30 minutes on the 10 freeway. No, give me a break, dude. Not at 3, dude. Then you start having those stupid. Me and my wife started having those conversations like, oh my God, we're those California people now. Oh God, it happened. But it becomes more of a game. You realize this, and there's a documentary called, I think LA Plays Itself is what it's called. And it's neat because it was fun to look at it with those California eyes. Like, oh, a lot of movies are really about California, and when I watched Chinatown originally, it's Polanski, Jack Nicholson, right? Initially, it's a crime drama. It deals with water rights. But I didn't realize it was about California and water rights. And watching it there, I was like, whoa, we're still dealing with that.
Yeah.
So showing it with... I got lucky, though, because a buddy of mine had a 16-millimeter print. And we got a chance to, on a Saturday morning, he had a record store. We got in before the store opened. And we watched. He was like, yeah, you guys come in and watch it, because he was so happy that I asked him to do it, and he's like, yeah, please, watch movies, sure. And so we did a Chinatown screening on film.
That's
in his
awesome.
store. It was just us, so I got a chance to talk through it and tell us, and we did it for a few of them. He brought out like we did Apocalypse Now, we did Citizen Kane,
Nice.
we did Sunrise. It was great. Those are the things I do miss from California, just access to people like that. But with Iowa, though, when you watch all these things, they sort of reinforce. Like even Sunrise, which is Fritz Lang, I believe, early German expressionist film. It's Sunrise very famously has scenes where they use these lamps in the Lake Arrowhead, and again that was part of. Oh, they're at Lake Arrowhead up in Big Bear. And there's and people you go up there, people have, oh yeah, Sunrise, especially the old people, like, oh, let me tell you the story. They built the carnival over here, and they tell you where the sets were, and you learn all this stuff. One of our favorite places to go in Joshua Tree it's called Pioneer Town, out in the desert, and Pioneer Town is like an area where there's this bar called Pappy and Harriet's, and at that bar, it's like a biker bar with barbecue. Bluegrass music, all the metal bands play there. The Melvins play there all the time, for example. Sleep, Om, all those stoner bands. Caius, or not Caius, but Queens of the Stone Age, like Dave Grohl. All those guys go out to this strange little biker bar out in the desert mountain, and it's beautiful. And behind this bar is the set for, I believe it was it's either Rawhide or Stagecoach, the TV show.
Oh wow! Okay.
And they left it there, so it's an old town, like an old west town, and they maintained it so it's like a little tourist spot, so you can go out there, and some people are like inside the little shops, like, oh yeah, you want to buy a trinket, like some jewelry, some sterling silver or turquoise or something, and it's fun, families are out there, and with California, you just kind of see that the movie business over and over and over reinforced in like old sets and things like that. Well, and again, we don't have that here, but we have the weirdness of Field of Dreams and the fact that exists out there. And really, we're only known for, I guess, 3 things most people talk about. The Field of Dreams, the Bridges of Madison County, corn.
Yeah.
And great. That's only 3 things. That means we have infinite ways to go, which is why Slipknot can be Slipknot. And we know, we have lots of great woods or timber, as they say out here, right?
Yeah.
Horror movies, man.
For real.
Weird, cool horror. Gold mine of horror and weird stuff. The Basilica murders, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been there.
The Axe House. That's probably as much activities you're going to find anywhere, more, even probably more so than the Stanley, where people have the film of things moving the marbles and stuff, right?
Sure.
That's like severely haunted, right? So like, yeah, I mean, it's here, but nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what gets me excited about being in Iowa. Is this place is uncharted territory in that regard. There's nothing but opportunity.
I agree.
The narrative hasn't fully been written. I mean, and even if the narrative has been written, it's very superficial.
Yeah.
Corn, who cares? We can do so much more.
Exactly.
And there's so much more opportunity, which is why Slipknot, I think, exploded and was able to do what they did too. You know, because they really, if someone told them like, well, you know, you're not in New York, LA, or even Omaha or Chicago, you know, like, yeah, good. You know,
Exactly.
we can do our own thing. And it's that what they came up with, I mean, could be sort of an aspect of representation, because we do have a lot of people into really like weird horror stuff out here.
Yeah.
And it's like the fact that, you know, this is the place of American Gothic, Grant Wood, this something sinister hiding behind the lines, or behind what's really behind that farmhouse and those people's faces, and why is she looking at him all creepily, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
In that Grant Wood painting, you know. So there's a lot that we still can do.
I agree.
We just have gotten used to shitting on this place, literally, because that's all we do. That's all. I mean, the media does it. Everybody does it. I went to go see Werner Herzog talk a couple weeks ago at the was it the Refocus Film Festival up in Iowa City. So that happened just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And the fascinating thing is Werner Herzog was in Iowa City. He was doing a book tour. He went to 5 cities. Like literally, it was L.A., Hollywood, San Francisco, Boston, maybe Chicago or New York, Iowa City.
That's wild.
Yeah. That I mean, he went across and he's like, I love it here. He's like, I love it here. You know, it's fantastic, you know. And it was great. And he says, you know, this is the heartland. And he tells stories like, I didn't realize that Herzog had spent time in the Midwest, but he had spent time in Wisconsin. He had been in Pittsburgh. He's traveled the U.S. and actually hung out. And he says that you got to go to the heartland. You know, I meet people all the time from the coast, and you know, they call you guys the flyover states. And they go, yeah, but have you ever been to Des Moines? Have you been to, you know, like Gary, Indiana? You know, something, or Pontiac, Michigan, whatever. Have you really spent time there and met those people? Because those are the people really running, you know, that are at the heart of this country. And like he says, you know, he said, you know, you guys are undereducated, underrepresented, and you're just fed terrible food sometimes, but you're just kind of overlooked.
Yeah.
You just kind of keep you guys busy.
Yeah.
You know, but this is also the place where, you know, weird, you know, different corporations use us also as a place to test out new product.
Yep.
So there's something to be said about this place, and we are, I mean, we have nowhere to go but up, honestly, I think.
I agree.
And so we have opportunity. That's why I'm excited to be here, and really for our industry, you know, you know, how we're doing the production program and DMACC, you know, we're trying to innovate, evolve, and stay ahead of the curve a little bit to make sure that we're you know, we want to stay competitive, but maybe, you know, hey, let's be leaders too. We can do that. You know?
I agree. I think Iowa has so much potential. Like you said, there's only going up. Let me ask you just kind of a basic question, kind of the thing I ask everyone involved in film. You know, what are some of your favorites? I mean, you kind of listed a couple films there, but I know you probably have your list of directors and whatnot that you really aspire to. So what is it? Get into it.
Yeah, let's see. We talk about it in class. I mean, a lot of the people we talk about in class, you know, the standard guys from the 70s, you know, we go there, but also the foreign stuff, and that's what I'd like to encourage you know, people to look at.
Yeah.
Look at the Ingmar Bergman, look at the Jean Renoir, look at the Jean-Luc Godard, look at the François Truffaut, look at the Akira Kurosawa. I mean, Kurosawa is easy. Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Sanjuro, all those great samurai movies that are super fun. I mean, anybody can get into those. And then watch Yasuhiro Ozu. And Ozu is, like I was telling the class just last week, when you're younger, you love Kurosawa because it's swashbuckling samurais fighting, and then when you get older, you're like, ooh, but Ozu was contemplative and about drama, and the blocking and the compositions are just impeccable and beautiful, and you kind of start with Kurosawa and you end with Ozu, later in life. Tarkofsky, the Russian filmmaker, one of
my favorites.
Right. The only guy really to talk shit about Kubrick. Really say, yeah, 2001 sucked.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like, nah.
That's wild.
That's why he made Solaris.
Oh, yeah.
Or Solaris.
Solaris.
Then he says, I'm going to make my own. See, I'm going to show you how to do it.
Interesting.
And then people are like, well, okay. He goes, oh, I got another one for it. Then he does Stalker, and you're like, okay, that was a mic drop.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Stalker was crazy.
Yeah, Stalker's just on another level and killed him, right? That's the movie that famously gave him the exposure to where they were, gave him the cancer that killed him, they say. So I don't know if we have any other filmmakers that have done that. So, I mean, you got to respect Tarkovsky, and that's a good deep dive. And we see his influence, especially in the Mexican guys, Cuarón, Iñárritu, and to an extent Del Toro, in movies like The Revenant and Roma and Birdman.
Hell yeah.
All those great films. And of course, Children of Men, which to me, criminally underrated. And
I agree.
No one's seen it, and it just makes me sick.
It does.
And what I love, too, is playing the soundtrack to people for that one. And when they hear it, they're like, what's this opera? And I'm like, no, it's a science fiction dystopian movie. Because he commissioned, I forget the British writer and chamber music person he basically commissioned an opera for a science fiction movie for Children of Men, and go back and listen to it. It's beautiful.
Wow.
It's arias. It's like it's based it on poetry and aria, and it's like, whoa, it's gorgeous. And to think about that tied to that really gritty, hard movie.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, that's pretty brilliant.
That movie has like one of the best oneers of all time.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Like that 10-minute sequence where they're in the battlefield, it's like, that's comparable.
That's Call of Duty. That's modern warfare. I mean, and you could tell, oh, this guy games. Because that looks like modern warfare. And that's the best game adaptation to me of all time. I mean, it's better than any game. It's better than Super Mario Brothers movie. As a game adaptation, it's phenomenal. And what's even better too is during that scene he uses that famous music from that Polish guy Tarkofsky, I think is his name, but the Threnody for the victims of Hiroshima.
Oh yes, yes.
The Threnody, which is very you hear it in many movies these days.
It's in The Shining, right?
It's in The Shining too, and it's in Children of Men, and David Lynch uses it too in Twin Peaks.
I need to see Twin Peaks. I think my orchestra actually played that one time.
It's a good tune, man. Yeah. Badalamenti passed away last year or this summer. Yeah, very recently, and David Lynch to go online. And David Lynch is another guy that we talk about.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and Lynch is another guy we talk about because it's, again, like we say in class, you don't gotta love the work. It's just, is it successful at what they set out to do, and is it at least interesting? And that's kind of what we want to go for. And people, if you want to make money, go do Star Wars, do Marvel, do a FNAF, Five Nights Freddy, right? As it's affectionately called in our right now, to the chagrin of some of our students. I'm sick of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, looking back in time in history, people forget like the kind of risk that people took making those great movies. Like we were talking about before, Apocalypse Now. That was a huge risk, and it's one of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah,
it sounds like it, or not. Sounds like it feels like people don't necessarily do that as much anymore, and that's kind of I don't know.
Yeah, Hollywood is risk averse. Yes. I mean, we see it with Disney. Mm-hmm. They greenlight all the safe stuff. That's why, I'm glad people are into horror, because that's where things usually are interesting and people try things.
Yeah, I agree.
And why? Because the budgets are lower, and they know, the studios know we can greenlight this experimental weird thing like Skinamarink. Whether you like it or not, I'm glad it exists. Because it's a weird, hour and a half movie. Yeah. Where nothing happens, almost, And, like the whole thing, the guy went back to grandma's house and made a movie. And it's like, okay, but hey, he tried something different and unique that was not a Marvel. That was not a kaleidoscopic nightmare,
I agree. I think if you look back, the 2010s, like at the movies that really, really were redefining. Most of them were horror. Like Ari Aster. Is it Robert Eggers, right?
Yeah, Eggers. Yeah,
Eggers. Yep. Yeah.
I like that guy a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, his stuff's it's pretty great. I mean, I'm into it. I love watching his stuff.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's good. It's good sound, everything. I mean, what's great about him too is I kind of look at them in terms of their technique. Because what you'll see with a lot of the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars stuff and like Five Nights at Freddy's, you mentioned it, wonders. Do these filmmakers have the patience to understand how to block a scene to tell a story instead of just letting, exposition roll out the mouth of their character because they don't know how to tell a story?
Yeah.
When you look at a Kurosawa movie, they're telling the story visually. Hitchcock telling the story visually.
Exactly.
Spielberg, the king of the wonder, tells a story visually. That's why they are who they are. Flowers of the or Killers of the Flower Moon.
I need to see that. I need to see it.
Lets the scene play out as long as it needs to. With his with to me the greatest editor of all time, Thelma Schumacher. And she even says, but I listen to Marty, but he wouldn't be who he is without her. Without the editor. And
sure,
they know. With an editor, I mean, it's like music. You figure out those rhythms and you just let the tone play. Like, let this note linger, let it linger, and now we change it, And I kind of like my favorite filmmakers, they know how to keep a long shot. I mean, I think if we think about them, they're the ones that know how to pace it out. Your Paul Thomas Andersons with like Boogie Nights or Master or There Will Be Blood, Yeah.
Another genius.
They get those shots. Jonathan Glazer's movie, Under the Skin, with Scarlett Johansson as the alien.
Severely underrated movie as well.
Another one.
Yeah.
That to me, that's a lost Kubrick film almost. It almost is. It's an amazing movie. And it's like, have you seen it? Like, no. It's always crickets. Like, God, you guys. Okay.
Yeah, you can only hope. Final question before we wrap this up. What is your piece of advice to up-and-coming filmmakers, people that are going into media, etc.?
Yeah, integrity. Stay true to your story. Follow your gut. Your movies suck when you start.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
They only get better with practice. There's no such thing as an innate filmmaker. You do it because you love it, and you stay with it because you love it. And when it fails, you still love it. When it hurts you, you still love it. Like I said, it's like caring. It's going to hurt you, and you're going to be terrible, and you're going to fail a lot. And in our industry, we have failures all the time. I mean, the podcast ran out of batteries. I mean, this industry is all about figuring out solutions to the problems when they come up. And the people who succeed are the ones that can come up with those solutions. They're the ones that are going to be recommended for other jobs. They're going to get jobs. How do you come up with those solutions? Do the work. Just keep doing the work. Show up, do the work. It's like, we say that in class. Show up early, leave late. Be the first one there. First to get, last to leave. Just always work. Be obsessed. Read the theory. Watch the films. Make the movies. And just keep, and then repeat. And just keep doing it. Never stop reading. Never stop listening to music. Challenge yourself. Read outside of your favorite things. Don't read another comic book. Read, read War and Peace. Try it. It's funny because I've been in Iowa like 3 years, and it's taken me 3 years to read one book. And I, when I finished it, an hour before you got
here. What book?
Dune Heretics, or Heretics of Dune.
Never heard of it. Who's it by?
Frank Herbert, the guy who wrote Dune. It's Dune. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the fifth one.
Oh, I see.
The fifth book in the series. And man, it was a slog. For me, it was. It was just hard because of the characters and just busy life and everything. And I quit it, and I kept coming back to it, and I kept coming back to it. And these last 2 weeks, I just made myself read every day, and I just got through it, and I finished it finally. And like today, I was like, I'm going to read it this morning. These last week, I've read like every day, just like I'm going to finish it this week. That was my goal, and I did it today,
That's awesome.
But never stop reading. Listen to opera, read poetry, challenge yourself. That's the only way you grow as a human being, is when you're challenged, when you don't know, and then you do know. Another quick story. This semester, we had a problem with our schedule which meant that I had to teach the color class, which I had not planned on doing, and I found that out about 2 weeks before the semester was starting. So I hadn't taught DaVinci Resolve in several years. I was going to do it last year, but even I was still like, oh, you know what? I'm still trying to get my feet under me in terms of program and IO and everything. So I'd rather not. I wanted to do things that it was familiar with for me. And And this year, interestingly enough, I had plans to do other things with sound and music. So I initially didn't want to do this, but I was like, well, fine, I'll do it. It took me 2 days. I was like, because I know what I have to do. Because I'm going to do a deep dive in Resolve. It's basically going to change all my plans. So what I want to do this year, that's next year now. So that was my initial, like, I don't want to do it because I had plans.
Sure.
But again, like John Lennon said, life's what happens when you're making plans, you know? And so let's do it. I dove in, and which has now inspired me to rethink our program. And, we're going to, maybe I can announce it here on your podcast, but we're going to, we're looking at pushing media management and DIT.
Nice.
And so we want that heavy production, post-production workflow. And I just put in a new editing bay in room 10, and we have DaVinci color panels and a speed cutter in there now.
That's awesome.
So I'd invite you to come down sometime, and I'll show you around.
Yeah,
show you the new digs. But that's what I want to do is I'm really want to double down on DaVinci Resolve more. Not just because, the YouTube algorithm shows that we should, because it'll get me more hits. I don't care, It's because it's free, and it's and it works. It's a great software that's across PC, Mac, and Linux. It makes sense. Why, I don't want to teach you guys Premiere, and then you graduate, and then you got to pay. You're basically tethered to a $60 a month subscription the rest of your life. Resolve is free.
Yeah.
And when you're ready to make the professional or get the studio version, it's $300 one time.
Yeah.
And then it's yours. So I like that business model. I like the fact that you buy their camera, they'll give you the software. You buy a panel, they'll give you the software. It's kind of like following the Apple model a little bit.
Yeah.
But Resolve is a very, very competent and very respectable editor. And within Resolve, you have a motion graphics editor, Fusion, which just replaces After Effects, and Fairlight, which can replace Audition. And it also has MIDI support. So, there's all within one application.
That's insane.
All within one application. And the best part, right, some of you know it's on iPad. You can run it on an iPad.
Wow.
And they made it for iPad.
That's insane.
This week I just did a demo in that color class where not only does it run on iPad, because people will say, well, yeah, but you only get the cut page and you only get the color page. The whole thing's in there. You just have to plug in a keyboard and enable the shortcuts, and then the edit page is there, the media page is there, the Fusion page is in there, the audio mixer is in there,
That's
and
insane.
the export page is in there, the delivery page. So you can have a full motion graphic, audio manipulator, everything, like the PC on an iPad now. It's in there.
That's wild. That's wild.
And it's free. It's free. So why would we not do that?
Exactly.
And even if it loses favor or it's not in vogue, it's a good editor. Either way, it's something that, when students leave, I feel good that I'm, pushing them in a direction where, that's always the challenge. I don't want you to be bound to any sort of corporation keeping money to something that may or may not work out. But, with this opportunity or this direction, it can. And I feel good that you will now have a tool that you can use that it's not going to, kill your budget.
Yeah.
That will help you be an entrepreneur. Because that's another opportunity we have here is with Iowa is we teach those professional film techniques and set techniques, but you can apply that to entrepreneurship. So, this way, when you come out of this program, you have, you can become an entrepreneur. You can get a job at a commercial company, or you can work on a set, all of those things. So we want to make sure you're prepared for that. And what I like about media management is it's a job you can do anywhere. People could send you footage from Minneapolis. They could send you stuff from Brooklyn, California, whatever, edit it here, organize it here, ship it back, so.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, man, it's been a fucking pleasure having you on.
Cool.
Never had chickens on a podcast, so that's
there you go.
That's a first.
Chickens. There you go.
Is there anything you want to tell the people before you wrap up? I don't know. Do you have any projects or anything like on the side they want to plug or?
No, I mean, I always tell you guys ABC, always be cutting. Always because but I don't have anything major right now. We did have a couple projects that we put on the back burner, but I'm just editing right now home movies on the pad to learn the software better. But
Nice.
I am gonna put it online
Okay.
and just like for fun. It's probably gonna be a feature length home movie because it's gonna be my. I went to Norway this summer
Okay.
and I used my phone to film it, and I put a anamorphic lens on some shots, so we got some really cool,
nice.
I got some really beautiful shots, but I'll be editing in Resolve, and I'll put it on YouTube hopefully by the holidays. My goal, if I don't get delayed, but because it's a lot longer than I thought it would be. But that's it. It's more fun than anything else.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really love what you do at DMACC. I love the program that you have.
Thank you.
I think anyone who wants to, kind of dip their toes in it, I think that's a great place to start. So highly recommend it. Guys, McCowstars podcast every Monday at 7 p.m. We got a website, McCowstars.com. We got Patreon where you can find exclusive content, and you can find us basically everywhere. We got other podcasts. Check us out. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Peace.